In today's show, the Shorthanded Trailblazers close out a homestand with a loss to the Raptors and now head out on the road for a 3-game Eastern Conference swing. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You listen to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same as Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's program, we'll talk about the Blazers' loss to the Raptors 110-98 at the Moda Center on Friday evening. Second night of a back-to-back, shorthanded, etc. We'll get into all of that in our fastest recap in the West. Plus, they head out this week on a 3-game road swing. Couple tough ones, and also the Washington Wizards are in there as well. We'll look ahead to who's going to play in those games and what they might entail. Let's get into it. We'll do what we do. Fastest recap in the West. Blazers lose 110-98. Portland playing without Denny Avdia, who missed the game with a lower back strain. They're playing without Duop Reith, who has a foot injury, and Rob Williams not playing on the second night of a back-to-back. Other than that, they're kind of as whole as they've been in a while. They're not healthy by any means, but and even like Drew Holiday and Jeremy Grant are on minutes restrictions, but they're sort of getting closer, and if they can get Denny Avdia back, they'll be in a good spot. We'll talk about that more in the show. But the Raptors playing without Jakob Poeltl, without their rookie Colin Murray Boyles. CMB's fun. Too bad he didn't get to play. I think Blazer fans would have enjoyed watching him because he's just he's a unique and uniquely skilled and fun player. But this game started out gross, about as gross as it gets. Perhaps maybe the worst first quarter two teams have played all season long. Truly a historic moment. Second night of back-to-back, Raps on the road, but the Blazers, after 12 minutes of NBA basketball, are trailing 19-12. They scored 12 points and are only down 7. That's pretty good. Blazers shoot 4 of 26 in the quarter, 1 of 11 from 3. They had 5 turnovers, including a shot clock violation off an airballed 3. They had 11 offensive rebounds, so they had 14 rebounds that are scored as offensive boards, as well as 7 offensive rebounds themselves. They had just 4 second chance points on those 11 offensive rebounds. They were 1 of 8 on second chance shots in the first quarter. So they're missing the first shot. They were often grabbing the second shot, and they were very often missing the second shot as well. This game was 5-4, 4.5 minutes into the game. It's 5-4, 4.5 minutes into the game. And the Raptors, they only led by as many as 13. Really importantly, the Raptors didn't do anything. They were 8 of 21 from the floor. They were 3 of 9 from 3. They missed their only 2 free throw attempts. They're up 19-6. They're up 13, but that was their largest lead. At that point, the Blazers were 3 of 23 from the floor. They closed on a red-hot 1 of 3 to close the quarter and make it a little bit close. Just the fact that the Blazers were not blown out, the fact that this wasn't 31-12 and you're down 19 in scramble mode right away, that was you had to feel like, okay, could be a lot. It was could be a lot worse type of moments. Halftime, Blazers cut it to 7. From down 7 to down 7. But the second quarter was just a very normal quarter. Both teams scored 31. Shaedon Sharpe kind of stabilized the Blazers offense in that quarter. He had 14 in the second quarter. He was 6 of 8 from the floor. He started 0 for 5 in that first quarter. Donovan Clingan had a brutal opening of this game at the end. And Drew Holiday, who ended up playing really well, he wasn't carrying them necessarily early. Sharp really kind of helped them settle into the game. And then they make a game of it in the third. They even take the lead briefly on a Caleb Love layup with 2.5 minutes left. But then to close the quarter in those final 2.5 minutes, the Blazers missed 4 3-pointers, split a pair of free throws, and then Ryan Rupert, at the buzzer, he got a fast break and took a Euro step, kind of deep, either a deep layup or a floater, depending on what you call it. It's kind of like a floating push shot drifting across the lane. He missed it at the buzzer that would have tied it up. But they go into the fourth 2-point game down 74-76. Like, again, they could not score at even a remotely professional level in the first quarter. They didn't cut into the lead despite a totally very reasonably played second quarter, but all of a sudden they're down 2 heading in the fourth. Ball game, right? You're in decent position, and they even take the lead. Donovan Clingan gets a putback bucket with a minute into the quarter, with about 11:10 left, 11:08 in my notes, to give the Blazers a 2-point lead. The Raptors immediately respond with an 8-0 run, and during that stretch, the Blazers had 2 possessions. On both of those possessions, Javonte Cook missed threes. Cook is a deep bench two-way guy who just does not play, break glass in case of emergency. He comes in there and has to start the fourth quarter because they're just trying to buy guys time. Drew Holiday's only playing about 20 minutes. He played 22 tonight. Jeremy Grant's playing about half the game. On Friday night. I'm recording this a couple days later on Sunday. Drew only plays 22 minutes. Jeremy Grant's playing 26 minutes. They do need to steal some time. Shaedon Sharpe plays 32. Conceivably you could run Sharpe's minutes up, but you're going to play him 12 straight minutes to close the game is probably not your best use of him, right? You kind of just do need to steal some minutes somewhere in there. Maybe it's not Cook, but if it's not, it's Rupert or Sissoko or whatever it might be, with another one of your main guys. And the Blazers just are they're forced to go in that direction. And when you're deep in your bench, it might not always work out. It doesn't work out. They go up from up 2 to immediately down 6. They have to take a timeout, but they hang around. A 6-point game's the game's not over. You're trying to survive 3 minutes of the quarter with your deep bench. They don't, but they hang around. Caleb Love hits a 3 to cut it to 4 with 4:19 left. It's 98-94 ball game in the final 4 minutes, right? This is a game you're now officially in clutch time. But then they just went scoreless for 3 straight minutes. And that's actually what decided the game. That opening of the fourth quarter was maybe a little bit of a dicey lineup, but 4-point game with 4 minutes left and you don't score. That's why you lose. The Raptors, end up building what was a 12-point lead in a game. They end up winning by 12. But during that stretch, from the 4:19 mark when Love hits a 3, Jeremy Grant misses a 3. Donovan Clingan misses a 3. Drew Holiday turns the ball over. Jeremy Grant turns the ball over. Scotty Barnes blocks Shaedon Sharpe at the rim. And then off that block, the Blazers kind of tired legs transition defense, just don't sprint back, end up with 4 guys behind the ball. I don't really blame Sharpe. Sharpe is blocked out of play baseline. It's the other, you're just, when you miss layups, you often give up points the other way, but everybody else has got to get back. And they just tired legs transition defense, and they give up a dunk to Mamu after the Barnes block, and it's a 12-point game, and that's going to do it from there. That's your ball game. Raptors go on to win 110-98. That's your fastest recap in the West. I thought in general, Drew Holiday was great. I thought he was the Blazers probably the best players. 9 of 14, 3 of 6 from the floor. Had 21 points and 7 dimes. In 22 minutes, he just takes care of business. They just didn't have anyone else who was really good. Sharpe was fine, but 21 points on 23 shots is just they kind of needed more from him. I don't even think he was bad, but to win this game, they needed more from him. And then Jeremy Grant just didn't exist in this game. He just didn't exist. He was 2 of 8 from the floor, 0 of 5 from 3, didn't make any of those threes. Got to the free throw line, but 4 of 6. It's not a meaningful, not a meaningful number. He finishes with 8 points in 26 minutes. He did have 2 boards and 2 assists. There you go, Jeremy. Way to do some secondary stuff, but 8-2-2 on a game like this, they needed him to have 17 or 22 or something. They needed him to. They needed him to be a factor, because if he's a factor, you guard them differently. And I thought the Raptors did a really good job of just playing to their what their sort of identity is, and they play with a lot of length, and they crowd you on drives, and they kind of live with you shooting threes. Not too dissimilar from the Oklahoma City defense we have seen of the last year and a half now, where they really, really, really hug to the elbows on defense. So there's just seemingly no way to get all the way to the rim, and because they sort of are very committed to crowding the gaps when you drive, and making sure that you're in a crowd every time you put the ball on the floor, you're gonna live with catch and shoots, and that's what their defense is designed to give up. That's kind of the math of it. And the Blazers were 13 of 45 from 3, but I don't really think that was a problem. After the game, a reporter asked Tiago Splitter if he felt like there were some threes that he left out there. I said, yeah, I honestly, I'd like we probably could have shot 60. And I agree. I thought in the second half, both City Sissoko and Ryan Rupert passed up open corner threes to dribble into a crowd. Splitter also lamented that they probably took more tough twos, like more shots in a crowd at the rim that were like more difficult shots than the threes they took. I'm with them on that. And Splitter also highlighted the lack of free throw attempts. Like the Blazers get to the free throw line mostly because Denny is just a monster and really good at drawing free throws. He's mastered the art. They took 10. They took 10 in this game. I think that's I thought sometimes like coaches, I feel like kind of they paper over stuff and try to point you in the other direction. Actually, I don't think that was a problem. I think this was a problem when they don't mean it. But I actually agreed with Splitter's assessment there. I thought the Blazers got. I think like the bricks kind of took them out of what was the right play, and you're shooting bricks, whatever. They're one of the worst shooting teams in the league. It is what it is. Like, sometimes confidence just doesn't flow from that. But I think when a team is daring you to get open, to take open threes, and you are generating open threes, you kind of just gotta trust the process a little bit. I want to talk about Klingon. I want to talk about Shaedon Sharpe a little bit. Let's do that in the second segment. Join me on the other side, won't you? Before we get there, though, let's talk FanDuel. Guess what? It's the last chance for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60. Pats, Seahawks, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorites, and I haven't looked who it is because literally the Seahawks game ended about 30 seconds before I hit record, riding with the underdog. Let's call it the Patriots. Go Hawks, baby. Or building one last same game parlay. This is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sports book partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right. Thanks for making the show your first listen. If you are an everydayer, make it official. Join the Locked On Everydayer Club. It's a great, if you do listen to the show 5 days a week, like if you truly are someone who listens to the show every single day, I think the Everydayer Club could be great for you. It's $5 a month or $50 a year. You get an ad-free version of this podcast, Locked On Blazers with no interruptions, plus access to our members-only Discord. Go check it out. There is a link in the show notes for this episode, lockedonblazers.supercast.com. Okay, let's get into this game a little bit. I think for the most part, this was shorthanded, second night of a back-to-back against a good defensive team. They shot poorly. I don't think that was the only reason, but they needed a little bit more. With Denny out, they need a little bit more, and Jeremy Grant didn't give it to him at all. And Drew Holiday can only play so much. Like if they'd been able to play Drew Holiday another 6 minutes, maybe they win this game. But they're trying to be good by, they're trying to keep him healthy and upright. Like he's 35 years old coming off a calf injury that kept him out for 9 weeks. They need to be smart about handling him. It is what it is. He's on a minutes limit. That's life. I think they win with 6 more minutes of Drew Holiday. I think they win with just Jeremy Grant playing just a better game overall. But this isn't even a nitpick of Shaedon Sharpe. This is just a thing, watching these last 2 games of Sharpe, one of which where he was a monster in the second half. Fantastic. 10 of 13 after halftime, 24 points. He's really good. But against the Raptors, he comes back, and this wasn't a bad game by Sharpe. 10 of 23, 21 points. It's it's more field goal attempts than points, right? It's below 50% shooting. He didn't make threes in this game, which he had in the past, just 1 of 6. But for me, the real thing is the last 2 games he hasn't shot any free throws, and I don't know that Sharpe is ever going to be a high level 3-point shooter. Certainly, he's been better this year, but he's still a 33% three-point shooter. And more importantly, despite like the total attempts being about the same as they were last year, he just like his usage has just jumped. Like he's playing more minutes and he's shooting more shots. So actually like the number of field goal attempts, like his 3-point rate, the number of field goal attempts relative to all of his field goals that he's taking are lower. Like he's actually taking fewer threes this year. So, you know, he's a relatively low volume, like, relative to his attempts, 3-point shooter. Like he's probably not going to be a guy who bombs away from there. So I just think drawing fouls, the best version of Shaedon Sharpe has to do that. This isn't really a comment about the Raptors. This is just like a big picture, the Raptors game specifically. This is big picture thoughts on Sharpe watching him. Like, he's so good. He's so good the night before, and against the Heat, making all those threes and step back threes, and was awesome, right? But that even like in the moment, right? Like I think we can all admit to be like, dang, Shaedon Sharpe doesn't do this very much. Like it was very clear. So I just I feel like the future of Sharpe has to be someone who gets to the free throw line with regularity compared to league average. Like the league average free throw rate, that is the number of free throw attempts you shoot per field goal attempt, is 26.8. Sharpe is at 23.6, so he's below average free throw rate for the league. But Clean the Glass, which probably is a better resource for this than just like league average, has him as an above average foul drawer for both as drawing shooting fouls and non-shooting fouls as a combo guard. So really, like he's his foul drawing is a little better than he was last year. So it's not like he's regressing in this regard. He's a little better than he was last year at this thing. But I just think like the big picture stuff, like the best version, like the star version of Shaedon Sharpe, probably has to be someone who shoots like 8 or 9 free throw attempts a game, like a free throws game. He has to shoot like 8 or 9 a game. That'll be the best version of him because he's just so good downhill. Like getting downhill and getting fouls is a skill, right? Deni Avdija has the skill of drawing fouls. It is, in some ways it's like finding the gray areas in the rules and making sure you exploit them. But like, that's the job sometimes, dude. Like, get in there and do some unsavory stuff, right? Like I'm not saying he needs to flop, right? I don't think Deni draws fouls by flopping. Deni draws fouls by seeing you, if you ever put your hand in the cookie jar, throwing his arms through your arms, right? Like creating the contact and understanding what's going to get called, and like Sharpe, just a little bit Sharpe to be a little bit sharper. Sharpe to understand the sort of nuances of that as his game grows, I think is important for him. Real quick on Donovan Clingan. Did I curse him? We got to talk about this. Did I curse Donovan Clingan? Well, first of all, in this game, he just missed so many shots and at the rim. His first shot attempt was like he's like inside 5 feet and airballs a jump hook with his right hand. It's like unguarded, kind of wide open jump hook inside 5 feet. And he airballs it. And it's like, just in the first half, he missed so many point blank attempts. So many. He finally got a bucket when he started to dunk. But I don't think you can say, oh, why didn't he just dunk every time? He's just not that explosive of an athlete in a crowd where he's going to jump through guys to dunk. Like, it's just not what he is. He's going to have to just like get a little bit better touch. He can dunk. He's gigantic and very strong, but like the sort of that explosiveness to get up out of a crowd and do that, that's not a regular part of his game. Maybe it will be, but I think it's more like the touch is something you can actually improve on. He was 6 of 14 from the floor, just a super brick-filled first half from inside the arc. He got it going a little bit and ended up getting a putback. His last bucket in the fourth quarter was a putback without a dunk. Otherwise, all of his twos were dunks. Other than that putback, like he's not scoring with range. But speaking of range, though. He was on Locked On Blazers, and I really appreciate DC's time. I saw him on Thursday evening. Thursday evening, and I thanked him in person. Appreciate the time. Like, it is an honor to have him on the show. But like, did I curse Donovan Clingan? From December 1st up until the date of the program, we recorded on Monday evening prior to the Warriors game. Donovan Clingan was shooting 40%, 9 of 47 across his prior 17 games. Like, he had kind of figured it out after a cold shooting November and shot really well in December, and he was shooting 40% for the month and into the early part of January, although it had come down a little bit in January after really hot shooting for parts of December. But 40% across 17 games. He's 5 of 20 in the 6 games since coming on Locked On Blazers. Did I curse Donovan Clingan? I'm sorry. My bad. Yeah, my bad. I felt like the layups was much more problematic than the 3-point shooting, but I talked to him. I was like, man, on the show, like, man, DC, I didn't see this coming, and then all of a sudden he just like starts missing shots. My bad. If you're listening, some like Blazers PR staff, I'm not actually curse. You can, if I request more interviews, you can grant them. It's okay. I think that's enough for the Raptors game. Shorthanded, whatever. It's not that this was. Sometimes you're going to lose. They had a stinker. They had some chances to win this game. They didn't win. I think that's. I don't think this one is a big deal. They had on the road though, and I want to talk about that because this is they've been at home a bunch in January. They're headed out on the road now. They're headed for a little more road heavy schedule here in the coming weeks. Let's get into it. Boston, Washington, New York looming next week. Let's talk about that East Coast road trip in the third segment. Join me there. First, though, let's talk game time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. Crowd, hyped. They're giving you energy. They are making the moments for you. But getting tickets, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why GameTime has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast and without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs with you, the fan. You can pull up the GameTime app, pick an upcoming NBA game, whether you're somewhere on the East Coast or if you're here. Like the Moda Center will come up on your phone. The venue you're going to watch that you want to go see a game, and it comes up on your phone. And then as you're scrolling, looking around the Moda Center with the actual map, what you see is what you get pricing. It's all in up front, no surprise fees at checkout. They got a 360 view from your seat, so when you click on it, you can see exactly what the seat's going to be like before you pay anything. There's great last minute options too. So there's NBA tickets showing up at solid prices right before the game if that's more your speed. It's quick, it's intuitive, stress free from start to finish. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDON. LOCKEDON, locked on for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today, and remember, it's GameTime.co, not .com. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked On Blazers. Blazers are going to head out on a road swing. They're very likely, I'm not tracking their flight, but I'm going to guess they're in Boston right now. Monday evening, they play the Boston Celtics. Going to be cold. Tuesday, they wrap up the second night of a back-to-back against the Washington Wizards. Going to be cold. And then Friday, they head back up to New York. Cool geography, and play the Knicks. Also going to be cold. It's cold everywhere on that side of the country. It's cold everywhere in the country right now. It's also January. It's a time of year that it's going to be cold, but also North America, cold snap. It's out there. So this is a little road trip. The Blazers have the best record in January, tied with the Clippers, heading into Sunday's games. The Clippers are about to win right now, so they're going to end up at 10-3. But heading into this game, the Blazers were 9-3, tied with the Clippers for the best record in January. But it's been home heavy. 8 of those 12 games have been at home, with 4 on the road. They've been fine on the road, though. They're 3-1 in those games. They beat the Pelicans, not very good. They beat the Kings, not very good, and they beat the Wemby-less San Antonio Spurs. So I'd say these games against Boston and against New York, and the Knicks are a little bit floundering, but still talented and recently beat the Blazers. These are real tests. These are real tests, and I think it's important to note here that the injury report is something to track still. Maybe not for the long term guys. I don't like Matisse Thybulle. Who knows? We may never. We hardly knew ye, right? We may never see that dude play in a Blazers uniform ever again. Scoot, I can't imagine that we're getting any word on him soon. So we're talking short-term injuries. Rob Williams is on the injury report as questionable because it's a back-to-back Boston and then Washington. I assume that Rob will play against the Celtics and not against the Wizards. That would be my guess. Jeremy Grant, Drew Holiday, not on the injury report. They're just playing with a minutes limit. They're just playing with the restriction, but they're not designated as injured right now. And then the big one, Denny Avdia, questionable. That's the echo. That's good news. It's not definitive, but I think the direction typically the Blazers have gone recently. Avdija was he's pulled from that game against the Heat, and Thiago Splitter said after the game, it's like, I think he'll play tomorrow. And I mentioned right here on the show that was very puzzling to me. It's like, so they pulled him out and they ruled that he was done, his night was done, but they thought he could play the next day. Like, in the moment, I thought that is very weird, because that was not my interpretation when I saw him get yanked from the game. And then afterwards, when Splitter said that, I was very surprised. He's listed as doubtful heading into Friday's game against the Raptors, and eventually ruled out. But so this is an upgrade from doubtful to out, and now from questionable. And recently, the Blazers, this has sort of been the indication that guys are going to play. They go from the out list to questionable is the indicator. In the the sort of legal parlance of the NBA, questionable means you have a 50% chance to play, but I would assume it's better than that, just like based on how the Blazers have handled the injury report recently. Doubtful basically no one has shaken off the doubtful tag to get into the game, and many have shaken off the questionable tag to get into the game. So I think Denny will play. I'm not sure it makes a ton of sense to play him on back-to-back games if it's just the soreness and he needs time, but we'll see what they do with those. But I think there's a good chance you get Denny back against the Celtics, which should be a really good game. The Celtics are surprisingly competent this year. Jaylen Brown's going to end up on a bunch of MVP ballots. They're that good, and he's been that good. They're the best offense in the NBA. That should be a really good test for the Blazers. Really good test. The Wizards are the worst team in the league. They're incredibly young. They're really leaning into playing an incredibly young group. You got to be. That's a should win. It's not a must win. No such thing in the regular season, but I guess there is at some point for seeding purposes. There's certainly no such thing in January. But this is a should win. You on this trip with two tough games, Boston and New York, sandwiched in between. You got to Okay, I'll just say it. They got to win it. They got to win the game. I don't know why I'm hedging. They got to win the game. They got to beat the Wizards. This is a bad basketball team. If the Blazers take themselves seriously, handling bad basketball teams on the road, as they have done recently against New Orleans and Sacramento, just handle them, right? Take care of business, and that's a big, important take care of business game against the Wizards. And then the Knicks, I know the Knicks haven't been very good recently and all that, but they're just not good on defense, right? They still have third best offense in the league. They have the talent to be really dangerous, right? I still think they could end up in the NBA Finals. I think they're that talented, and the East is there's no one in the East that's way better than them. I guess the Pistons, but even in a playoff series, I would assume that would be competitive. Although I might pick Detroit. I think the Knicks are good enough to, they wouldn't make the finals in the West, I'll tell you that. But they're good enough to beat anybody, right? Just with the raw talent they have, and if they're healthy, and obviously the game's on Friday, so we don't know exactly what their bill of health is going to be. But if they're healthy, then that's a tough game. So if you get Denny back, and you have two games against very good teams, legitimately good teams in the East, and a bad one, you're trying to sneak out 2-1 somehow. You've already circled one of those dubs. You got to beat the Wizards. You're trying to sneak out 2-1, either Monday or Friday, and then the Blazers are back here on Sunday to play another good Eastern Conference team, but in Portland, the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's the week ahead. I think they're going to play a game pretty much as healthy as they've been in months again, except this time hopefully, Denny Avdija will finish the game. They haven't had a game where Drew, Jeremy, and Denny Avdija have all played and been on the court, to the end, available to the very end, since November 14th. So this would be a big change, and they're playing way better recently. I mentioned that they're 9-3 and they're in January. They're during that stretch, and it's obviously 12 games or whatever, but during that stretch they have a top 10 defense, top 10 offense. They've been good recently, and now's a chance to keep it up and keep going, because that's where this is a team that can, I've said it a bunch, I'll say it again. This is a team that feels like they can look up the standings, and I think they've earned the right to look up the standings and not worry about what's behind them. If you take care of these, you do win games on the road against good teams. You earn the right, you'll just earn the right to climb up the standings. Everyone else is gonna, they're gonna win some, lose some. But these are tough games on the road. This is how you actually climb in the standings, right? Is taking care of not just checking every single box, we're going to beat the bad teams, right? But winning tests. And I think Boston and New York are a good fun test this week. Should be a fun week of Blazers basketball, and I'll have you covered for all of it right here on Locked On Blazers. So come back for those shows. I want to say this to close the program. I think it's a legitimate shame that certain things are that I view as plainly morally wrong. like the murder of a U.S. citizen at the hands of the United States government. It's a shame that those things could be interpreted as political and not clearly what they are, which is morally repugnant and evil. So, I feel ashamed for us that that's even a conversation. So instead of getting into deeply to that, I would like to offer this. If you're feeling outraged or angry or alone, scared, any other isolating feeling or unsettling emotion during this historically turbulent moment in the United States, right? If you're feeling any of those emotions, I think the best way to sort of counteract that is doing something positive, not posting online or whatever, but like I think helping in reality, perhaps even in minuscule ways, but real ways, is the best way to counteract those feelings of isolation and loneliness and fear. So like your elderly neighbors who live down your street or in your same apartment complex, your houseless neighbors who live in your community, any folks that need help or need a small favor, ask them what they need, help them out in any way they can, providing a little bit of help to anyone vulnerable in your community. It's the best way to combat the feeling of helplessness is to be helpful, even on a very small scale. So if you are capable, willing, and interested, go out and be helpful in your community. Show that there are more better people in the world than bad ones. That is going to do it for this program. 5 days a week, wherever you got podcasts. Tell your friends about the show. I appreciate you listening. I will talk to you soon.